We'll wait for about 5-7 minutes and then start.
Okay, it hasn't yet started?
No, I mean, it is. People are started logging in, and so we'll just wait for
Fine,
about
fine.
5 minutes and then we start.
Good, good, great. And it will be recorded, right?
Yeah, it's now live on YouTube.
All right, perfect.
Perfect. I think we should start now. Good evening, ladies and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pranav Sharma. I am the science historian at the Institute of Sciences in New Delhi, leading a project on documenting the history of Indo-French scientific partnership with a focus on the 20th century. Today, we are going to talk to Dr. Shivani Chaturvedi. She is a very senior gynecologist, and she's been a very active cultural activist. She's an educator, and she brings a very different kind of experience with her, wherein she is a woman in science, and she also deals with students and with the cultural landscape. So today, with her, we will be discussing the importance of creating the right role models for women to pursue science, and why they need to be close to home, specifically when it comes to subjects like STEM. Dr. Shivani Chaturvedi, we thank you for agreeing to deliver this talk. And with your opening remarks, we can start the discussion.
Thank you so much, Pranav. I really appreciate the premise of this talk about women role models and women in science. As a woman of science, I can say I do not, I too, in my own way, conform to the stereotypia to do with women in science. So the stereotypia or the conditioning in medical stream is that if you are a woman, you would either be a OBGYN or you would take some branch which is less time consuming and has less of emergency. So I'm a practicing gynecologist since 21 years. So I do conform to the norm and I am the rule rather than the exception. Having admitted that, I would say to be a woman in science, it is indeed, though as much as I love her, it is indeed sad that even in this day and age, the only one example which comes to our mind when we talk about women in science remains Marie Curie. So, isn't it poignant?
Yeah.
After all these years of STEM and women being allowed and pursuing different streams and different branches, it is still the one name which comes to mind when we talk about women of science is the scientist Marie Curie. What do you have to say to that?
I think you're right. I mean, even after, say, being existed about 100 years ago, Curie still continues to inspire generations of scientists. And I think she's one very tall, very important scientific figure, specifically from the 20th century, and she still is very relevant. Um, you're right, and then that brings us to the more relevant question, that why are we looking at uh, the role models back in the past, and as we were discussing previously, that there's a lack of visibility of the right role models. So we delve into that question as we progress in the discussion. The first question that I think that is important to address here is that why role models are important to make gender diversity specifically in sciences work.
Role model go a long way in the mental conditioning of a young person. For example, like they did in that study, if I ask you to close your eyes, or if I ask young children from a school to draw, what comes to their mind if I say the following words? Draw a scientist. Most all students drew a man. Draw a model. Pranav, if I tell you the word model, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I mean,
Even in India, even the primary school books teach in the local language that father is reading the newspaper. A normal family scene in a primary school book teaching language. Father is reading the newspaper. Mother is cooking in the kitchen. Son is playing cricket. Daughter is putting the clothes to dry on the line.
yeah,
This is where we all grew up from. And then expecting all through the years, there is this threat, there is this thing that you just mentioned role models. So role model work both ways. There is strong role models in your profession or the professions which are open to you. They inspire to no less degree. And then there are also the role models which put you down and take you back a few steps. For example, the mental conditioning is so strong that not only are women demotivated from joining STEM, there are no visible role models in STEM when one is growing. The STEM stream is always very male heavy. The academia in the STEM stream is always male heavy. You know very well that in an engineering college, a female engineering student still remains a novelty.
that is true.
That
That is true.
that is
I
a
think you
person to
brought a
be
very,
looked
very,
back twice upon.
that's very interesting point that you that brought that before creating the role models, we do need to look at how are we conditioning our child from the very first few years of its development, wherein you are not giving the child exposure to the right information, wherein you have not parted ways with the condition, the patriarchal gender roles, then you are setting a really bad precedent for even to create a role model in first place. You're right. Yeah, that's a very interesting point.
So either there are less role models about women in STEM, or if they are not visible. They are
Yeah.
not they are not celebrated. They are allowed. They are doing their own thing, but they are not celebrated enough for the generation of young girls who will follow on those footsteps. Or then there comes the anti-conditioning that it is very calmly seeped into the mind of young girls by the society, by the family, by the whole structure that STEM women in STEM is an either or situation.
Hmm.
That woman who does research and never marries or never manages a family or never has children. So why does women in STEM have to be in either or situation? Why is it exclusive? Why isn't it inclusive? Why are such role models not highlighted or celebrated who are doing it all, who are doing the fine act of balancing like they do everything else, and who are either in academia or astrophysics or engineering or clinical research and are also managing their family as they choose to do it. So that this either or concept is demotivating a lot of young girls to take up time heavy streams like STEM.
Hmm.
The passion to be inculcated, the seed of passion to be inculcated at the time of school is sorely missing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That STEM is projected to women in a context where it is something that is not that not conforms to the normal ways of living. If you want to do STEM, you have to do these sacrifices. Yeah. Yeah, and it is true. And if you are not ready to do those sacrifices, the society will ensure that you end up doing those.
Any young girl in we can do a survey. Any young girl in today's India would know all the latest Bollywood or Hollywood heartthrobs, but how many would know a Dr. Ritu Srivastav, who was behind the Mangalyaan mission?
I don't
A
think
woman
men
who
would also
fueled
know
it.
that. I'm not
And
very
for
sure that
that
even
matter,
boys don't know it.
even for that matter, even the American Mars mission, the deputy was a lady of Indian origin called Dr. Swati Mohan. How many would know that in India itself? So we have taken these few stereotypes which we spew out every time an unwanted girl is born. Excuse the word unwanted, but as a gynecologist, I see it happening every day outside the labor room, every day outside the OT. When a gynecologist gives news of a girl being born, the reactions are often extreme. Then comes the counseling, where the attendants, the family members, the friends are, kind of giving him some solace. Oh, don't worry, girls are also doing big things these days. It's fine, it's okay. Maybe she'll do something. So it is always a consolation prize which is being given to girls. These names are few, they still remain an exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you don't create the right precedents, then you end up creating a cultural space wherein it is very rare that a woman is accepted for who she is. Coming back to so let's just shift the discussion to another tangent wherein uh, what, for example, let's just assume that we are able to create role models to ensure that there is gender diversity at work, specifically in science. What all things what are the key markers that we would be looking into? That, for example, if we set the right precedent for right now for women to work, say in mathematics, uh, and if we have the right role models, what are the kind of things that we are looking at?
Let
We
me start. Let me start with my personal journey. When us 18-year-olds entered a medical school for the first time, the first professional quarter had anatomy, and none of the anatomy demonstrators or teachers were women. And the very first chapter in anatomy was the breast. I bet each and every girl sitting in that lecture theater on the first day of anatomy, being taught the anatomy of breast by a male teacher, regretted the decision to ever come to medical school. It was sheer mortification and followed by somehow thickening our skins, which kept us going. Where are the women role models? Where are the teachers? Where are those uh, whom we can look upon as this is a woman I would want to be when I grow up? And it's fine. I have found my role model in a statistician who's a woman. I have found my role model in an engineer or a innovator who's a woman, or a lady who works in AI, or a lady who works as an astrophysicist. Where are they? If they are there, why are they not visible? If they are visible, why are their stories not being celebrated? If they are if they are leading meaningful, purposeful life, why are young girls not told about them abolish this fear in their minds that it is a very sorry life, it is a very difficult life, you can't have a normal life if you want to choose STEM, or you have to devote your life to a particular stream. So why are they not out there?
hmm,
Why? What stops us from celebrating such women and showcasing their so-called normal lives?
Yeah, that is there. That's there. So
And why
if
are these
we
women not uh, allowed, or rather encouraged, to come in the front and allay the fears? Allay the fears that it is not a difficult road. It is not just about being unwoman to be a scientist.
That is true. That is true. So if we the thing is, if we are able to, as you rightly said, that had it been a female teacher, uh, or a gender balanced faculty when you entered college, it certainly inspires more women. And
If
yeah,
I had a female neurosurgeon in my medical school, I would be
yeah,
encouraged to take up neurosurgery
yeah,
or cardiac surgery.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. And also at the same time, it also ensures that men see women in these roles. So there's less of that kind of
Pranav, I feel it all boils down to the family unit, the gender balance as a couple. It all boils down to that. Woman still remains as the secondary breadwinner in her family.
mm,
Oftentimes women is a her work is like a hobby. You can do something for the sake of you have studied, you have got a degree, fine, you can express yourself and you can still go out there and do something which doesn't take too much of time, which doesn't disturb the family dynamics. And yes, you can be you can put a board and say, oh, I'm this, while there is an enormous sanctity and seriousness associated with a man's career.
mm.
So this is the alpha professional in the family remains a male. The woman, all said and done, is not the alpha professional, the alpha breadwinner, unless she's the sole breadwinner.
Yeah,
So somewhere this whole your whole trajectory to study and be something is dominated by the fact that at the end of the day you have to run a family, take care of
yeah.
kids, and make a home for the alpha male to excel in whatever he chooses to.
Mm, mm.
And I'm
Yeah,
not saying this with a pinch of salt, nor am I saying this with regret. It's fine. It's so great that women are nurturers and creators and everything. They are in tune with nature. Their cycles are in tune with nature. Woman is the closest thing to nature. See, have you ever wondered why women's cycle mimic the lunar cycle? So women are the why women can reproduce. Women are much in tune with nature, much in tune with the laws of uh, the world,
mm,
I would say. But and I'm certainly not saying this with a pinch of salt that a woman is expected to be a nurturer. But why does she have to choose between a nurturer and a brilliant
mm.
professional?
Yeah, you're right. Um, so the other thing that I think all of us would like to get more interested into is when what happens when men see women in STEM, uh, and how it changes and balances out the gender uh, the
Pranav,
gender.
until more and more women come in STEM, it remains very difficult. It is very difficult to make a place for yourself within the brotherhood. The male heavy bro code. Women
No,
always
it's right. I mean, it's of course it's male heavy, but what I'm saying is a different thing. I'm saying if men see more women scientists, say in academia, and more female professors, does it change the gender stereotype specifically when it comes to science?
Of course, I'm sure things will normalize. I'm sure the balance on both sides will be better. It can be set if more and more women enter STEM. So it would be, they would not be left out. They would not be considered a novelty, or they would not be considered a a different person. Oh, a woman is here, part of our program. I have seen many conferences of surgery where there is only single woman who's a general surgeon, because general surgery as a branch caters to a lot of male clientele, as in male bodies. So
Hmm.
that woman surgeon is always that specific person who is a, you can say, and just as an icon. Okay, this is a tick that there is a woman surgeon present. So once more and more women enter science, once more and more women enter the research arena, I'm sure the balance, the skewed balance, can be shifted in the direction which it should be, and men will be forthcoming. Imagine the vast uh, brains which are untapped because of this bias.
Yeah, that is true. That is so true. That is so true. I think there's a very interesting point here to make, that once you have more women in STEM, you are also ensuring that the cultural acceptance of a certain gender in a certain role also gets altered. And the peers and parents, they start looking at STEM and subsets of STEM, different branches, in a totally different light. You're right, as you were saying. If you have an orthopedic surgeon who's a female, then there's a possibility of a girl taking up orthopedic surgery and doing it. And
So
right now, you don't.
this
Yeah,
has never happened. Females don't become orthopedic surgeons. So
yeah,
see how it affects the community as a whole. So if a woman breaks a bone, be assured she has to go to a male orthopedic surgeon, because
yeah.
there are no women orthopedic surgeons. So this is how, imagine the end user, how these choices made by a young impressionable girl, because of the lack of role models, how they affect the end user and the society as a whole.
That is true. It's a system that is self-consuming, and it
So
it, it
we come from the land of Shakuntala Devi, who was hailed as the human computer or human calculator. But
Hmm.
do not forget that she was paraded around as a circus object.
Yeah,
Imagine the uh, pain and the poignancy of the situation, that this woman who was brilliant at numbers was paraded around as that Indian woman who is good in maths.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
So
I mean,
one, two steps for her, kudos for her, but four steps back for female race.
yeah, yeah. Now, the other part of the discussion, which is I think the important part of the discussion, is how to get how to create the right role models. Of course, the nature of right and wrong are subject to interpretation, but let's just assume that there exists a right role model. Um, how one
One
would want.
suggestion would be, for a young girl, I would be happy if in, alongside the Barbie kits there could be science kits.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you need to create a role model that is close to home. You're right. You're right. Absolutely right. I
So
mean,
there she is growing up, and a preteen or a adolescent, and she gets this unrealistic looking woman with an humanly unrealistic figure, unrealistic long golden hair, unrealistic eyelashes, and she can change her clothes, and you know how the song goes, I'm your Barbie girl. And she is this. Where are the science sets? Where are the robotic sets for girls? Where
yeah,
are the chemistry lab experiment sets?
you're right. I mean, the, you're right. I mean, the system that consumes itself again and again only produces a certain set of outcomes, and in doing so, it restricts uh, opportunities for a certain gender, and in our case, women. I mean, it is very normal for a guy to get a Lego set to make chemical bonds, but for a girl, it's very unheard of. You know.
Either it's a kitchen set or a Barbie fashion set.
Exactly. But then it takes us back to the discussion that we had previously today during our session, is that if we create these role models, say very early in the childhood, and there's a perception change that happens wherein people see that women can also do science, specifically in a country like India. I think this cultural reception will also change. So there are small interventions at different levels that one has to do in order to create a system that actually nurtures and uh, encourages women's
So
science.
another example would be in primary school books. If this could normalize that mother is going to the office and daughter is going to the chemistry lab or going to play cricket. If this could, if we could break down stereotype branding of role stereotype models and mental conditioning from that tender age, that would be another example. The
That is
third
true.
thing which is happening, and I'm glad of it, is that now the science and liberal arts rigid molds are breaking. In college, especially in US, you can take statistics and you can take English and you can take history with that. You are
Yeah,
also a prime example of that. So what I feel, for example, if a girl loves history or psychology, she doesn't have to choose, oh, I'm not to be branded as a liberal arts student and that is what I will pursue. She can even take something she likes,
yeah.
like
That
computer.
that that is the international study model that is being followed. I think everywhere in Europe and in the US. And I got this very interesting comment from Mary Aruna, and she says that this gender stereotyping, it's been happening for centuries, and feminine traits get internalized in the psyche of women. And when changes occur, only when it is deliberate, both on the part of women as well as on men. I think she's right. I mean, it is extremely important to ensure that there is a bipartisan agreement on women in science. Otherwise, it's only looked at very intentional effort, and
I
it has,
was, it's so upsetting that
yeah,
still a woman who chooses to become a woman of science or wants to pursue this is making a point. So why
yeah,
isn't it natural to her to go
exactly,
with the flow?
exactly,
Why
exactly.
is she, raising the flag and making the point and overstepping the boundary and being the weird? Why is it not simple? Oh, okay, fine. I like to cook
Yeah,
and
it
I
is.
like
It is not
statistics.
simple. You're right. Right. But then that is why we need role models, because it is not simple. That is why we need role models. And also, I think it would be important to say. I mean, I don't think uh, that women only can be role models for women. Men can also be role models for women, and
Yeah,
vice
why
versa.
not? Yes.
Yeah. And
But Pranav, it is such a reassuring thing to see women doing what you aspire to do successfully. It is so reassuring, and you can't imagine what relief it feels in a young, impressionable girl that one day I can be this. We all know through, if through this discussion we have established what power role models hold in this day and age where there are instagrammable uh, life people are leading. Every little thing is documented. It's a very shallow and it's like your life is in a showcase out there, and you being an influencer is thought to, I say, let's take it to STEM. Let women come out who are STEM influencers rather than fashion influencers. What
Yeah,
about those women?
true that
Why can't we
there is
bring
a
up the
certain
breach?
number, but the number is less.
Yeah. So why not utilize the social media, utilize the the culture of likes and retweets, and get influencers as STEM influencers?
You're right. You're right. So yeah, I mean the approach needs to change. In order also, I mean, right, in order to create a right role model, you don't have to go and train the primary school teacher. The role model can be somebody who's just putting up Instagram posts or YouTube videos.
Make STEM cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a friend, name is Parshati Patel, and Parshati is doing almost the similar thing in Canada, and she's a space scientist, does wonderful work.
We've
And
recently lost Dr. Ratna,
yeah, we unfortunately lost Dr. Ratnashri,
the
and she
doyen
was
of
one person who's inspired generations of female scientists.
generations. So, why didn't we see more of her life story on prime time? Why didn't we see, a 1 hour slot on prime time on Dr. Ratnagiri would have inspired thousands of girls to be there. We have already established the significance of influencers,
Yeah,
the
yeah, right.
significance of role models, the significance of peer pressure, how it works. So STEM girls need not be the weird ones. STEM girls need not be the uncool ones.
Yeah,
STEM girls need not be holding a flag in their hands to make a point. Oh, we are doing STEM
yeah,
out of a need to make a point. Why
yeah,
can't it go in a flow?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So we also need to ensure that when we are establishing the role models, we also establish the way to a certain end. Example, if we are establishing that women are doing great things, say in mathematics, we also need to establish, all right, here's the way you become a mathematician. And so there has to be a very conscious effort uh, alongside creating right
Otherwise,
role
we are going to
models.
lose this enormous intellectual, untapped resources.
You're right. I mean, when you are, it's so interesting that you said that the world is only running on one side of the brain. If we consider the world as an organism, we are only considered with one side, and then there are only few neurons that pass through this side through the corpus callosum, and that's the end of it.
So rather than saying women are supposed to follow the more women friendly roles, one must understand that a brain has right and left brain. And each individual has a right and left brain. One has more to do with calculations and figures, and the other has more to do with creativity, poetry, English. So it is all present in the same individual. It only depends how one is watered, how one is tended, how one is developed and inspired to work on that side of the brain.
That is, and so there was
A
this
knife
argument.
can be used, a knife to a young child, a baby knife can be interpreted as a kitchen utensil or a surgical knife,
Yeah,
whichever way you choose to
yeah.
use it.
It's how you tell the story. It's how you tell the story. You're right. So now we open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please leave it to us here in the chat box. I can raise it one by one, and we can see how many we can address.
And
We
also,
wait.
if there are young people who are volunteering to become STEM influencers on Instagram, they are welcome to drop a line.
Yeah, right. I would love to become one, but I don't think anybody is going to listen to me. But yeah, it's important. You're right. I mean, we need to look at very unconventional ways of creating role models. Otherwise, if we, it's like doing those mandatory. yearly rituals that you do just because you do it, and over the years, because it loses meaning, it's just one thing that you do, and
Women
when you
refuse to
break
be,
that.
please refuse to be just there as to be included in diversity. A check, one women check, one minority check, someone from a minor ethnic group check. No, women is half of the intellectual resource of this world. And why should they be just restricted to a mandatory, a figure in the demographic, just a person to be included because of diversity?
Hmm.
We need
Yeah,
strong role
this,
models. We need faculty. We need academic heads of STEM who are women. And we need them to be more visible. We need them to be celebrated. We need their lives to be showcased, wherein we see that they are taking good care of family, and
that is true.
they are pursuing all their
We need to
passions.
give a holistic view of the life. You cannot just show that this person is doing really great, and and then people make assumptions. We need to remove that barrier as well. There's a very interesting question that has come up by uh, Sutanuka Banerjee. She says, um, so, and you're right in saying that. She says that, what about the glass ceiling in the organization that are devoted to STEM, which is true. And I've been in those organizations, and I understand how difficult and frustrating it can get. And I think, in purview of the discussion that we've had today, that if we have the right role models, then there's a right
Another thing,
movement.
Pranav,
There's
for
a
these for these what Miss Banerjee meant, or maybe for many organizations to do with STEM, men are considered to be team players. Women are not. Whether it's lobbying for funding, whether it is distribution of credit for their work, men are considered, there's a brotherhood. Men are considered to be team players. Women are not.
I
So
think that
time has come to
I think that is a perception, but yeah, I would agree that there is a team up that happens. That is true. That is true. There's team up that certainly happens, and I think that in part rightly answers Ms. Banerjee's question, wherein, because you have a dedicated system that ensures men to get certain positions. One. Second, there's a way wherein men usually team up. Third, that most likely the reviewer is a male. And four, all these people who are in different positions, be it the reviewer, be it the funder, be it the person who is designating this person to become, to get into a certain role, all of that come from that cultural upbringing wherein men have some projected gender role, women have some projected
male,
gender role.
Pranav, male privilege is real.
That is true. So,
Male privilege is real.
yeah, yeah.
So speaking from a place of privilege, definitely, one has to. It's very easy to sit on the shiny pedestal of privilege and speak, but imagine a girl going through the motions. It
Mm.
is very easy to cop out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you're right. So, in doing that, we also need to we've addressed that the system that is there consumes itself in a sense that it only promotes men. Second,
in a world in a world where every day me as an MD with a 20-year experience is mansplained every single day by a person, an electrician or a plumber or even an anesthesiologist. Mansplaining is real. It's like the perception is she would be maybe a dumb woman, so we have to explain the thing out to her. Mansplaining happens every day. every so often I have to tell the person on the other end of the line, listen, I'm an MD. You can talk to me without explaining. Please don't mansplain to me. I'll probably understand it better. Why do I have to do it? So it is considered, it is real. Mansplaining is there. Male privilege is real.
Yeah, you're right. Right. No, I think in the absence of any more questions, I think I would like to summarize today's evening. It was very interesting discussion that was brought out thanks to Dr. Shivani, and specifically because of her wide experience from where she comes, specifically from as a woman in science. She's also a cultural activist, and she's been teaching and educating people for more than 2 decades now.
Can I just interrupt
Yeah,
your summary?
yeah.
I used to write a column for Hindustan Times called the double X chromosome.
Hmm.
It pertained to the female chromosome. It, I was made fun of, is it double X or triple X?
Yeah, yeah.
Need I say more?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and these are the things that these are things that irritate also. They are things that are very very frustrating. I mean, why do you have to interpret something in a certain sense? And and that also speaks of how perceptionally blind people are. So it's in order to do so. So coming back to today's session, we discussed how important it is to have a role model who's a female. Why it is important to have her close to home, wherein we need role models to inspire us on a daily basis. And also, we need to take unconventional methods of creating uh, role models for women in science. And especially with the advent of technology in the 21st century, we must use social media to create more buzz. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Uh, I think we can close the discussion for the day.
Thank you
Just
so much, Pranav. It was a pleasure. And
thank you.
here's to science. And here's to women in STEM.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Shivani. And we see you again on the 24th of May. We have Professor Rohini Godbole. She'll be talking on the gender diversity and equity, specifically in context with the science and technology policy.